My name is Stephen Horn. I'm an independent journalist, and welcome to This Week in the Triangle, where I talk about local news here in the Greater Triangle area of North Carolina. This week, we have a couple stories: Durham County, Johnson County, and then some info affecting the whole Triangle area. Let's get into it. So first off, we have a story here: Duke UNC settles certificate of need dispute, allowing 142 new hospital beds. So North Carolina has this law called certificate of need, where if any hospital, if any medical facility wants to build a new hospital with beds, or they want to add more beds to their current hospital, or even if they want to purchase and start using certain types of medical equipment, they have to obtain permission from the state. They have to obtain that certificate of need, because the state says the free market doesn't work in medicine. In order to keep costs down, we have to limit the supply. Now, if you know anything about the laws of economics, you'll know that limiting the supply in a free market does the opposite. Limiting the supply increases the price. So Duke and UNC have been in a legal battle for years relating to this certificate of need, because even once a medical provider obtains that certificate of need to open a new facility, that can still be challenged in court by their competitors who are losing out on this monopolistic privilege. So now this settlement has been resolved between Duke and UNC. So UNC will be opening, they'll be able to continue with their plans to open a new 102 UNC Hospitals Cary campus. So this is for Cary, but I believe it is in southern Durham County. And Duke will be able to expand their Duke University Hospital with 40 beds. So I believe these lawsuits have been going on since 2023. 2 years later, they're able to reach this resolution. And this is just one roadblock that the government puts in the way of expansion. Now, we have tons of people moving to this area every year, every day. What are they supposed to do? When you need to increase medical facilities with a rapidly growing population, but it takes years to work through this bureaucratic process before they can even, start actually doing the physical and real work of constructing medical facilities. That just really throws a wrench into, having the facilities and infrastructure that are in demand because of this mass migration. So there has been two bills filed this year to repeal the certificate of need laws, one in the North Carolina House, one in the North Carolina Senate. And among those sponsors are a couple local legislators here in the Triangle: Senator Benton Sari in Johnson County and Representative Joseph Pike of Harnett County. And our next story here: Leftists use anti-woke online marketplace to find local businesses to boycott. So Public Square, if you've never heard of it, was created as sort of a conservative online marketplace or e-commerce platform. They have various services, but one thing that they provide is sort of an online directory, a map feature. So you can look up, you can find businesses around yourself who have, they describe it as consumers and businesses that value life, family, and liberty. So if those are things you value, you can find businesses that also share your values. And with the history of canceling, basically for the recent history, having those values has made you more likely to be a target of some sort of cancel campaign. And that is sort of what happened this week, because some people on the left, I believe it started with some viral influencers, social media content creators on the left, found this website and decided, hey, this would be a nice resource for us to know who not to send our business to. So there's a couple posts on the local subreddits, which, if anyone is familiar with Reddit, it is a very liberal place. A couple people basically posting, hey, you can look up and find which local businesses here in the Triangle not to support because they have conservative values. One poster said he was shocked to find his favorite restaurant and smoothie joint on the list, and he was sad that he can't ever go there again. Now, if you're a conservative, you live in the Triangle, especially if it's one of the urban counties, Durham, Raleigh, one of these cities, you will be very familiar with the experience of going to restaurants, going to whatever businesses where the owners, the staff do not share your political beliefs. If you're a Republican, I believe there are hundreds of thousands of Republicans in Wake County, but they're still a minority. And so, but apparently the people on the left cannot handle giving business to someone who does not align with them politically, even though that is the case every day for people on the right. So there's at least 250 local businesses who are listed on this platform. One of the Redditors compiled a list, and there's a wide variety of businesses on there: pizzerias, coffee shops, gyms, martial arts studios, realtors, construction contractors. Just anyone can say, yeah, I subscribe to these values. I want to be on this platform, so other people with those values can find that business if they want to support it. But on the other side of the coin, as we've seen last week, is that people who don't support those values can use that same list to say, this is where we don't want to send our business. So it's a double-edged sword, so to speak. And so that is the Public Square platform. And I guess whichever side of the issue you're on, you can head over to Public Square and find that list of businesses. And so our article this week, a 24-year-old woman was arrested for vandalizing Teslas in Clayton, or vandalizing one Tesla in Clayton with a swastika and the word Nazi. So this is the third incident of Tesla vehicles being vandalized in the local area that we have reported on this week, or that came to light this week. So in Garner, there was a Tesla owner who found the word Nazi scratched into the rear corner of his vehicle. Another Tesla driver was driving through Zebulon, and the driver's side window of his vehicle was shot out with a BB gun. And finally, we heard about this incident in Clayton, Johnson County, where this young woman is alleged to have drawn a swastika and the word Nazi on a Tesla that was parked in a Clayton, I believe it was a shopping center parking lot. So this incident in Clayton was, I believe it was March 13th, but she wasn't arrested until last week. So let's head over and take a look at that article. You can find all these articles, the weekly newsletter, at thisweekinthetriangle.com. You can sign up there, put in your email, get in your inbox each week. So we have Olivia Marie Antoine here. She's a 24-year-old resident of Zebulon in Wake County. She is a former resident of Clayton, where this crime is alleged to have occurred. And so, to the best of my understanding, Olivia Marie Antoine is actually the daughter of Michelle Antoine, who is a Republican Johnson County School Board member. If I reported on another story relating to her recently, about how the Johnson County Sheriff's Office had doxed the owner of an anonymous parody Facebook page. So, that I don't know, what familiar connection there is, if any, but apparently she is not following in her mother's footsteps, as her mother is a conservative, a Republican on the Johnson County School Board, and she is, drawing Nazi graffiti on Teslas. So I was able to obtain the incident report from the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. It revealed that this was a 2021 Tesla Model 3. It was parked at a shopping center at the intersection of Highway 42 and News River Parkway in Clayton on March 13th. So basically, a Clayton woman returns to her vehicle. She finds that the word Nazi and a swastika had been painted on the Tesla in, quote, a white milky substance. I believe that was the JOCO report that obtained that information. So the owner reported this to the Johnson County Sheriff's Office the next week. The Johnson County Sheriff's Office was reportedly able to use facial recognition software to identify Olivia Antoine as the culprit. Once again, I can't repeat this too much, but in our American judicial system, defendants are innocent until proven guilty. So these are the allegations against Antoine, but this case has not been adjudicated. She has not had her day in court to argue that, perhaps there was some mistake, perhaps she is innocent. This is what she is accused of. And Teslas, I think this highlights the point that Teslas are one of the worst vehicles to vandalize because they do have these cameras. I believe it's called the Sentry system. There's cameras all around. If you vandalize a Tesla, there's a good chance you will be captured on camera. And that appears to be how she was caught here. The Tesla's cameras recording the incident and facial recognition software used by the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. So Antoine has been charged with injuring or tampering with a vehicle, which is a Class 2 misdemeanor. Under North Carolina law, for a first-time offender, that is going to be a maximum 30 days community punishment and or a $1,000 fine. That's if you're a first-time offender. I've seen many people comment these people should be thrown in jail for a long time. They should be charged with federal terrorism statutes or whatnot. In this case, this is a relatively minor charge. If you don't have a criminal record, even if she is convicted, even if she gets the maximum penalty, is not that harsh of a penalty. But who knows? It may be enough to deter other would-be vandals from committing this act. So in addition to this incident in Johnson County, as I mentioned, there have been 2 reports of Tesla vandalism in Wake County. So on March 23rd, late Sunday night, a driver was driving his Tesla Model S through Zebulon, and his driver's side window was shot with a BB gun. What he told WRAL, who knows if that would have gone through when I was driving with my kids. Unfortunately, we're just in a crazy time at the moment. I sort of can't imagine that feeling. You're just driving down the road, smash, your window is shattered. It turns out you are shot with a BB gun. And so in Garner, basically, the man's wife was driving the Tesla around. When she gets home, she notices that the word Nazi has been scratched into the vehicle. They weren't sure exactly where it happened, so they didn't have the Sentry Mode video of the incident. But once again, this is Nazi. It's pretty clear what the motivation here was. Now, these incidents of Tesla vehicles being damaged, even though I'm sure they are very unpleasant to have happen to your vehicle, there have been much more serious attacks, especially at Tesla dealerships across the nation. These include attacks with Molotov cocktails in Colorado, gunshots in Oregon, Tesla charging stations set fire to on Massachusetts, Ford Cybertruck set on fire in Seattle. So this is sort of unprecedented in terms of this large number of vehicles, including here in North Carolina, being vandalized for political reasons. But here in North Carolina, it can get worse. Even if we just see what is happening, if you have incidents just like ones that are happening across the nation, it could get much worse. So we previously reported on some of the protests at the local Tesla showroom or dealership in Raleigh. And I think this definitely gives us some insight as to why people are vandalizing Teslas, because the people who go out and protest probably are not the exact same people who are committing vandalism, but they are there for the same reason. So we can look at their signs, we can look at why they're out there, and kind of get a grasp of why people are vandalizing these Teslas. And there's a similar theme that we see across the anti-Musk and anti-Tesla protests across the country, and here at the state capitol in Raleigh, as well as outside of this Tesla, where they've been holding a weekly protest that has attracted a good number of residents. And the common themes are basically Elon Musk and Donald Trump are destroying democracy. That's been a kind of an attack against Trump since he entered politics, since he was elected democratically, since he was elected again democratically. But Musk, is sort of an extension of that, where they don't see Trump's election as democratic. And so when Trump appoints someone who is wielding power on his behalf, that's even, a step further removed from democracy and the way they saw it. And at this Tesla protests, specifically, there's a large number of Ukrainian flags. So for whatever reason, that pro-Ukraine message really resonates with the people who are out here protesting Tesla. And then finally, another theme is this anti-fascist. So you have swastikas. Tesla funds fascism. Various forms of Musk or Tesla with the swastika imagery added to that. And so when you have the anti-Tesla protesters out in Raleigh, they're mostly older white people. Well, pretty much all older white people. When they're using uh, Nazi swastika, for them it's just words. But there is a small subset of the left, which is radicals, which is the anti-fascists, which believe fascism must be sought by any means necessary, and they also have an extremely broad definition of what fascism means. And so for them, Tesla is fascism, and by any means necessary sometimes includes vandalizing Tesla vehicles. Now, what we've seen from some of this, from some of these, incidents of vandalism that have been recorded on camera, it seems like a lot of these vandals are more operating on spur of the moment things. They see a Tesla, they pull out their key, scratch the side or something like that. But especially the more serious attacks where there's firebombing, shots fired, those are more likely to be people who actually do hold to this radical Antifa, anti-fascist ideology. But once again, for each individual defendant in an individual case, we can't necessarily see into that person's mind, but we can get a pretty good idea of what this movement believes and why, at least their messaging as to why they have a problem with Tesla and Musk. So we have for our protest watch this week, we have the fifth week of the protests outside the Tesla facility. The Durham Democrats who are involved with organizing that protest, they have also began organizing some overpass protests. So if you drive through Durham and you see some protesters holding signs above I-147 or I-40, there's a good chance it's these Durham Democrats. I guess they have a lot of pent-up energy to release, so they're going out, they're holding signs. I don't really know how effective this will be at changing minds in Durham, given that pretty much everyone there agrees with them. But apparently they see this as a good use of their time, or maybe it's just sort of self-satisfaction in terms of they want to feel like they are doing something. And another story from Durham, happened to be a couple of Durham stories this week, is the Durham Teachers Union. The Teachers Union rallies for official recognition by Durham Public Schools. So this is the Durham Association of Educators we're talking about. And basically, they want the district to pass a meet and confer policy so that the administration will be required to meet with the teachers union when they're making decisions. So in North Carolina, we have some laws restricting public sector unions. So, the teachers union cannot go on strike and they cannot engage in collective bargaining. Now, in the past, people who support the teachers union, the Association of Educators in North Carolina, they have said, oh, it's not a union, it's just association. But, even the current North Carolina Association of Educators president says, yeah, actually, we are a union. We do want to be a union. And so I'm going to call us a union. And basically, they operate as a union, even if they are restricted by law. So currently, the Durham Association of Educators does represent over half of the teachers in Durham County, or specifically the Durham Public Schools. Part of that, they've had quite a few fiascos recently, including widespread mistakes with pay, where they overpaid teachers and they wanted to claw that back. So it's not surprising to me that the educators would turn to an organization like the Durham Association of Educators, who they see as fighting on their behalf. So this proposed policy, it would basically give them, a seat at the table, so to speak, and it'll be some sort of official recognition that they represent Durham teachers. But because because of the laws regarding unions, the policy does say that, any organization representing at least 6% of the educators in the Durham public schools can also get this meet and confer a seat at the table. So it's not, it's worded so that it's not an exclusive thing for the Durham Association of Educators, so they aren't running afoul of the laws. And so they have at least from the reporting I read, they have at least 3 school board members on their side who went to work with the unions, who are pro-union, but they need 4 to pass this policy. So they're hoping to get another school board member on board. So the Durham Public Schools Superintendent Anthony Lewis did meet with the educators when they held this rally to come talk to him on Tuesday. But he wasn't quite as pro-union as they would have hoped. He basically said, hey, the Durham Association of Educators is part of, sort of the ecosystem, the Durham Public Schools, who they engage with, but, they they care about working with each teacher, whether or not they are associated with the Durham Association of Educators. So basically, that's his position, and the union would like him to be a little more pro-union. And I guess when it rains, it pours, because we have another union story this week from Durham. So on Thursday, Zaxby's employees at a Durham location walked out on strike because the management would not accede to their demands. So these employees at a fast food restaurant, Zaxby's, were demanding $25 an hour minimum wage, in addition to some other complaints about workplace conditions and workplace safety. They say that an employee was recently fired because a customer pulled a gun on him. They say, hey, we want to be safe from workplace violence, and we want this guy to be rehired because he was the victim. So, I have no idea what actually happened in that situation. I don't think they're going to get $25 an hour minimum wage in Durham, but who knows? They can try what they want. I don't think there's necessarily a shortage of supply of fast food workers who could be hired to work at Zaxby's. So who knows? So if you've been tuning in, thank you for listening. You can find this at thisweekinthetriangle.com. You can sign up to receive these emails in your inbox, and you can also support the reporting I do here as an independent journalist. Thanks for tuning in.